Nashville have done it. We've come away with the victory from Ottawa in the Champions Cup, first leg, and this is my match reaction. So it's a successful start to our Champions Cup run with a 2-0 victory against Atletico Ottawa away. We didn't have the greatest of starts. The 11 was the 11 that I predicted in my match preview predicted 11 video, but it was a bit of a tricky start to the game. We started with some good energy. I do think that the overall energy that we have from these younger, deeper squad that we've got is something that's going to be beneficial in the long run. But I think what was evident was the lack of quality in comparison to when we saw some of our first team starters come on later in the game. We started out with some good opportunities. I think in the first half particularly, we saw players like Jordan Knight get a couple of opportunities. He looked really good just going down the right-hand side. I had expected him to start on the left, but he started on the right-hand side like he's been doing in preseason, and Bauer actually started on the left, cutting in to the right. Jordan Knight, I felt, was the more effective of those two fullbacks. He definitely was getting forward more. He was getting more energetic runs forward. He even had a couple of moments where he managed to get through 3 or 4 players in the first half and cut back for that big opportunity for Kasim. Of course, Kasim then missed it. I think he was probably one of our more frustrating players of the night. But overall, we did really, really well in terms of the energy. I felt like the system was very evident through what we were trying to do. I'd never seen a front three set up quite so narrowly. I thought it was genius from BJ, to be fair, but they were very, very narrow. And that happened whether the experienced guys were on our top front three or the younger guys that were starting. So that was Madrigal, Pasillas, and Kasim. They sat super tight and compact right in front of their pivot. Ottawa were playing a back three with wing backs that were very high, and the two pivot in front of them, basically the front three blocked them off. So they wanted to play out from the back, and they really couldn't because that front three were getting right in the way of them, and it meant they had to pass the ball around the back, pass to the keeper, and then often hit the ball long. And most of the time that resulted in us getting the ball back and, being able to reset and slowly build. I will say that I think generally we are a little bit slow in the build-up. I know it's early in the season, but it is quite dull and boring to watch, and often it doesn't really go anywhere. I think there were a couple of moments where Schwacke is definitely showing confidence. He was very loud in the first half, a lot of talking. You could hear that clearly, probably partly because the stadium was empty. We were playing at the Hamilton Stadium, not the Ottawa TD Place Stadium. So it was very empty. There were a handful of Ottawa fans there and maybe 1 or 2 Nashville SC fans. But yeah, pretty minimal travel and a strange environment, strange atmosphere, particularly for a competition that's obviously hyped up and is pretty significant continentally. There were definitely some standout players for me. I think Thomas Williams was great. Again, Jordan Knight had a good day. Rubens Pasillas, of course, was great getting the goal. That was the most pivotal moment. He looked really good, really composed. But I'm going to do a full 11 breakdown. So hit the subscribe button and the like button, and you will see that when it comes out in the next 12 hours or so. Overall, I think it was a pretty successful evening. I do think the first 11 that was on, not our first 11, but the first 11 that played, just lacked quality. That was the biggest thing, was just the lack of quality. I think there were some things that were frustrating for me to watch. Sort of Bauer's very right-sided. I've got to say, I don't know how Bauer's going to feature moving forward because Mayer looked great at right centre-back. Thomas Williams looked outstanding at left centre-back, covering what will be Woledzy's place. So that kind of gives us our 2 reserve centre-backs. And then Bauer has been, playing at left back, right back. Last season, he's going to be a centre-back cover again, but I don't know how he features because on the left, he's really frustrating to watch. He very much receives the ball, doesn't want to go outside a man, doesn't want to really beat a man like that, and then comes back inside. That's sort of what he does. And when we've got someone like Reed Baker-Whiting coming in, he's very two-footed. He can go either way. He's much more exciting and be a much more exciting option to have outside of Lovitz. And then he can also do the same on the right side. Jordan Knight looks much more energetic. He actually made some opportunities. He did do some good work. He had a shot that he skied miles away, but he did have those opportunities. I think that makes a big difference in the team. In terms of Bauer's role, he did well defensively, as we know he's going to do well, but he didn't do all that much in terms of the attack. And I think he really slowed down our attack for the majority of the time with a lot of passing back inside and laying it back off to Acosta, Williams, players that are in the middle of the pitch to then redistribute the ball. But that slows down our tempo a lot. And the times we attacked with a counter-attack, we pretty much broke through every time. And that was in the later stages of the game. But those sort of fast opportunities to counter, we are good at them as much as BJ maybe doesn't want us to play like that all the time, but take them when you've got them. And Bauer generally sort of stops that. So I'm kind of a little bit fearful for where he's going to fit into this team. Of course, it only takes an injury or two, and then he's straight back into it. But it does feel like we're very heavy in our back four. And of course, that's without Isaiah Lafleur. And so it's a little bit of a confusing one for me on that. I think Rubens Casillas had a great game, as I've mentioned. His finish was great, really great composure, and it's awesome to see the two main strikers that we've got scoring and getting off to a good start and doing what they're supposed to, getting those goals, not relying on everybody else to do that for them. I think the biggest difference we noticed was that change from that starting 11 to them bringing on the more experienced players. Despite what I said about Jordan Knight, when Andy Nahar came on, the game definitely changed in terms of the composure, the way the ball was being played. When Espinoza comes on, that changes the delivery into the box. Suddenly the delivery into the box looks really good. And then when, Sam's there, Sam's suddenly a much bigger threat. He's got a couple of chances. He takes, the first one gets saved. The second one, he finishes with a great cross from Espinoza. And I think the quality of those players was what made the difference. I think it shows you that we do have depth, but that first 11 we have is definitely a lot stronger than the remaining team that we have. But I do like what they can bring. I like the energy they can bring. And I do like them. I like them as, a team. I like what they can do. And I like that they were very competitive today and there were chances. It's just that the quality, they didn't finish things. That was the difference. They didn't make the finishes that they could have done. If they'd finished a few of those chances, this could have been a 4-0 game. Unfortunately, we had to bring on those more experienced players, and it did make a difference. You can see that quality difference between them. So overall, kind of a tale of two halves. Good energy in the first half, but no efficiency with our finishing. And the second half, once those experienced players come on, the quality of the chances went up, and also the quality of the finishing went up. And you could see that around the 60-minute mark, BJ decided that we just had to go for it and we had to get something to bring home. And we did that. That was all you needed to ask. We were actually better than I thought we were going to be. I thought it was going to be a slow, turgid game that was tough to watch, but it wasn't. The only thing I will say is that our match control still does not look quite right. And this is something that we had trouble with last season, was the control over the ball in the last few minutes of the game. The players aren't great at shutting out the game and knowing how to do that. I feel like our positioning goes all over the place. We look good when we're attacking. We really struggle to sit back and, just hold the game, park the bus. We just can't do that. We don't look good. And our midfield gets bypassed very quickly every time. It kind of looks like we have our attackers and our defenders, and the midfield doesn't really know what to do, doesn't know how to cover, doesn't know the spaces to block off, the channels to be blocking off. And that just always looks a little messy. And that was when they started to come into the game. They were they passed the ball around very slowly at the back for them, played a few long balls forward, and the rest of it was an occasional counter-attack that we really stopped them from having. But in the last few minutes, once we gave them some space, we sat back a bit, they suddenly were finding that space. They were getting some crosses in. There were a few times the ball went near the goal, and it did look like, there's a header there. If someone gets the quality on the end of that, that's game over. And I think in MLS, that is going to be an issue. That won't happen against a Canadian Premier League team that obviously are a lower quality. When you're in MLS, that could be something that actually changes the game and does what it did last season, which was turn a lot of our draws into losses and a lot of our wins into draws. So we need to really work on that side of the game. Everything else is looking great. BJ's got some cool ideas, and the system is definitely evolving. It's definitely evolving. We're definitely playing with that 4-a-flat 3. So we're not really using anyone in the hole. And then there's definitely a role for each of the players. There's a lot of mixing up in terms of Sam coming left. Espinoza is obviously naturally playing on the right. Hanny's sometimes dropping into more of like a false 9. Sometimes he's pushing the ball ahead. And so it's quite interesting in that way. And then in terms of the other 3, the Kasim, Casillas and Madrigal combination, Madrigal looks way stronger on the left, but he was playing on the right, and then in the middle, Casillas comes out to the right. There was some good rotation in there, and that also, again, shows versatility, flexibility, and our attack is going to be difficult to mark. It's going to be difficult to sort of man-mark teams. They're going to have to definitely mark zonally. They're going to have to be aware of players switching over and who's going where. I think that just adds to our dangerous attack and makes us more of a threat this year in MLS. So overall, a great win, a good start. You can't ask for more than that. The team were up for it. They got the win, and that was the most important thing. we head over to Geodis Park on Saturday and we play our first game against New England Revolution, where hopefully we see more of this continue and that first team really gelling together and that exciting front three, because they were exciting to watch. If you want to see my player ratings, you can check out the next video that will be out very soon. Hit the subscribe button and the like button, and I'll see you in the next one.